Hello and welcome to the Residual Royalty Academy. In this video, I've got a feature interview with Dane Mcbeth, who is also a self-publisher. Dane publishes high content and DIY assisted books, as he calls them. And in this video, he's going to tell you all about how to do it and also how he's gone from zero to over 10K a month in less than a year. So this is going to be super valuable to you. I know I learned a lot from it. So sit back and enjoy the video. All right, cool, man. Let's jump into the first question.
Sounds good, bro.
So, where are you from, and what's your past life? Did you go to college? What were you doing kind of before publishing?
So I'm actually from Vancouver, Canada, up in North America here. I know that I don't know if most of your viewers are from Europe and stuff, but I'm from way over across the world in Canada. I'm currently I'm 21, so if I would have gone to college, I think I'd be in around my third or fourth year now. But I don't know because I didn't go to college. I straight out of high school, I went into I tried to do a lot of photography and videography stuff. So that was one route that I took, and then so that's I still do that stuff sometimes nowadays. But my main thing is obviously publishing nowadays. Before I got into publishing though, my online business career, if you want to call it that, was a lot of I started out with drop shipping and stuff. I'm pretty sure everyone starts out with drop shipping. Gone into online business.
And what were you selling?
That was my first thing that that was my first. I think I did a lot of I got into when the Fortnite thing was big, so online gaming stores and stuff. That was some stuff, and then I did some Amazon FBA as well, and just never really found success with those things. The first thing I found success was publishing. So that's my background on where I'm at today, pretty much.
Yeah, and how come you didn't go to college then? Was that a conscious choice, or you kind of never wanted to go, or you didn't get accepted, or what's the story there?
So it wasn't that I didn't get accepted or anything. I actually never applied for college at all. In grade 12, that's when I really started to get into online business, and my own thing was photography and everything. So I just kind of wrote that out as soon as I graduated. Didn't really have any interests for any things to learn in college anyways. I didn't want to be a doctor, I didn't want to be a lawyer or anything like that. So those weren't my style at all. And I knew that, so I didn't even bother with the whole college thing. Not that I think it's scam that everyone says. It's not a scam, I guess, but for someone like myself, going to college just for the reason of going to college just didn't make sense for me, so I just never did it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I guess in Canada, is Canada the same kind of price as America?
Yeah, I think the States is a little bit more expensive than, well, not a little bit, I think it's a lot more expensive than up here, but it's still pretty expensive. It's not like it's free. It definitely is a big bill. So if you want to, if you're from Canada and you want to go to university, you better want to go to university. It better not be just a reason that you're just going to go. So I never felt like I had a reason, so I never did.
Yeah, sure. So how long have you kind of been doing publishing? How did you even hear about publishing?
So funny thing. Well, the way that I got into publishing was actually through. It wasn't through my online business. Drop shipping and stuff. It was more so to do with my videography and photography stuff. About a year ago, I don't know, most of your people on your channel probably familiar, I don't know, they probably know about the Mickelson twins, and those are the guys that actually first showed me publishing, because I was actually doing videos for them and photos for them in Bali back in April of 2019. So that was last year, and I was with them for about 4 or 5 months. And obviously during that time, I learned a lot about publishing because that was what they were into. That's how they make their money online. So I learned a lot about it being with them and kind of mentored by them. So that's how I got into publishing. Fast forward to July, I came home from traveling with them for about 5 months. And then in September of 2019, that's when my first book actually went live. And that's basically when my publishing journey started.
Started in Starbucks, right?
Yeah, man. Starbucks was the place. Ever since, well, it's not anymore because I can't go there since it's closed because of COVID-19. But I can't say that on your video because you're gonna get demonetized. I can't. I can't go to Starbucks anymore because of the pandemic thing. But back in the day, like September to Christmas time, like I was there. It was my second home. That's where I did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've been doing it for maybe, what's that now? Maybe 9 months?
Yeah, I think it's like eight or so months. Like middle of September is probably when it went live, like just before the middle of September. So yeah, I'm not good at math in my head. I think that's about 8 months.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it in my head. But I think that's how long it is.
Yeah. And how have your results been so far, like kind of income royalty wise?
Well, do you want me to start out? Like, do you want me to go from the beginning or like recently?
Yeah, like how it started, I guess, and then where you are now.
Yeah. So if we go back to September, my first book actually did really well. I know that a lot of people who are subscribed to you guys are more familiar with like low content and no content books. Obviously, that's what you focus on. For me, I started with high content, so like my first two books were 30,000 words each. The first one went live in September, like I just said, and that one ended up making me like $1,000 the first month in royalties. So that alone was pretty good. Like most books don't make that. So I do contribute that to being one of my major things as a success. I saw that money right away, and that just kept me motivated to keep pushing. Because, for example, if my book only made me like $100 in the first month, then I don't know if I would have been as motivated as I was. But anyways, that first month was big for me. I continued from then, got that thing onto Audible, made some audiobooks, had a few books by the time October, November rolled around. And by that time, I think in November I made around like 4,000 in royalties with Audible and KDP or whatever. So things were moving pretty fast. I was making a lot of books. I just was fully committed, like full on going to Starbucks every day making books. Fast forward to December. That was the craziest month to that time of my life. Like just obviously Q4 things are going to sell way more, but December was the biggest month to date, and that was about, I think I'm in Canadian dollars, it was like $14,000 in royalties in 1 month, so that was insane. And that was from high content books and then like middle of the pack books that I make, they called like DIY books or whatever, which are around like 7,000 to 10,000 words. So I had a lot of those made at that time. So I had those guys with the 30,000 word books kind of combined into my portfolio. And that was when I saw like the full potential of publishing. So after that, I went all in, and like ever since then, my income per month has just gone up and up. Fast forward to actually last month was smaller than April. April was my biggest month ever. It was like $20,000 in royalties.
That's insane. That
insane. That was nuts. Yeah, and that's just because I kept on building my portfolio, making more books, adding to it, making sure that they're obviously high quality. And I'm sure we'll talk about what goes into a book later on, but just to give you an idea, those are my royalties right now. March was like 15K, and then April was 20 something, I think, in Canadian dollars. I think it's 25 Canadian, so yeah, pretty good numbers so far. And then last month I think is probably around 15 again. So April's a bit of an outlier, but it was a pretty good one.
And just for a bit of kind of transparency to the viewers, like obviously you'll have some costs associated with that, like ad spend and like outsourcing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like over the last, I actually just made a video on my channel talking about my last 3 months on KDP, which when I made it, the last 3 months were March, April, and May. And I added up all my costs and everything, and over that span of 3 months, I managed, my income, like my revenue was 50K Canadian. And then with all of my costs, like you said, outsourcing, book costs, ad costs, those are the main costs, I guess, for publishing. I think it added up to be around 20,000 Canadian.
Nice.
To be total transparent. So I guess over those 3 months, if you take that off in profit, they were all 10K profit months. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, you can't complain about that, right?
What's that?
It's not money to be complained about.
No, I can't complain about that. It's pretty good. I definitely am happy with it, and April was a big contributor to that. I think just altogether though, it was around 10K profit Canadian over those 3 months. But that's just to be completely transparent. Yeah, like ad costs, book costs, and everything altogether. So that's what I took home, if you will.
That's awesome, man. So tell us about these kind of assisted DIY books. Like, people probably know what these 30,000 word books are. Like, you just hire a ghostwriter. It's a non-fiction book. But how are yours different? Or some of the books that you make different?
Yeah, so to give your viewers a better perspective, I'm sure they all know about 30,000 word books. It's pretty obvious what a 30,000 word book is. 30,000 words, it's like a chapter book. No, I'm in nonfiction like most people are in this world, but with the DIY books, to give them a better perspective, I'd say DIY book is kind of a mixture of aspects from a long form book, and then combine that with what low content books kind of consist of. But there's also a mixture of words and everything. So for me, most of my DIY books get to be around, like I said, around 7,000 to like 15,000 words tops. And in comparison to long form books, like 30,000 word books, those ones usually cost around like minimum $500 to get those written to like 1,000 and beyond. Depends on the quality of writer and a bunch of different factors. But when you compare them to DIY books, I call them DIY books. They're do-it-yourself books. But I don't really do it myself. I get people to write them for me. You can do it yourself, but personally, I just get people to write them for me. They're shorter. But comparison, like cost-wise, those ones are around $100 to like $150 each if you're comparing the two. So that's why I've really put a lot of my focus into that and building those in my portfolio and just contributing that to my long-form books, because long-form books, the 30,000 word ones, generally stay a little bit more consistent, while the DIY ones, they take advantage of like trending things like worldly events, like holidays, stuff like that. So they do well during those times. As you can see, obviously in December they did very well.
Yeah,
so it's just like those kind of books do really well. But I honestly saw the potential with those ones, and I just went all in with the DIY ones while making sure that I still had long form ones for the consistency factor of my portfolio.
That's awesome, man. So what do you think the biggest mistakes you see are that other people make with high content publishing?
Not even that. Like high content and any kind of publishing, I guess, is what I would talk about here. Like mistakes that people make. I've talked about this on my channel before, but I see a lot of people going in and then they're just, I call it niche surfing. Most people call it like shotgunning. Same idea. Especially in high content. It's not that big of a deal in low content books, I think, but more so in high content. If you're jumping from like basically what niche surfing is, when you're jumping from like big niche to big niche to big niche, and you're like never diving deep in there and like discovering similar keywords to make books about. Instead, you're just making a book here, book here, book here, and then like you're never becoming an expert in your niche. Instead, you're just like jumping around trying to make as much money as you can. This is something that I did at the beginning, and it's just like it's okay to do at the start, but I feel like it can be very costly. And if you focus on a main niche and dive deeper, like for example, if you go into homes, crafts, and hobbies or whatever, and you dive in there and you find gardening as like the sub-level niche is what I call it, go into gardening and find keywords in there and make a bunch of books about all those keywords within gardening instead of making a bunch of books in a bunch of big niches. Then you'll become an expert within gardening, and you can really make like a bunch of series. You can sell them together, make bundles. Like there's so many things you can do if you focus on a niche strictly instead of jumping around from niche to niche, because that can be costly, and that's something that people do, I think, at the beginning, and I did it myself. It's hard to avoid. So that's one thing. I think another thing is just being like, I don't want to say cheap, but not wanting to invest in a good writer. If you put money up front into a good writer, then the book is obviously going to pay for itself. It's going to be high quality. If you don't put money into it and you just kind of cheap out on a writer, you don't get a high quality books. This is more so high content. They're not going to do very well. It might do well at the beginning because you got off with a few good reviews, but eventually some bad reviews will roll in and that book will die out. So you want to think long term with publishing. It's not a short term game at all. So going in and making sure you invest in a high quality writer is just future proofing yourself, so you're good for months to come instead of weeks to come.
Yeah.
You don't want your book to die out right away.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of things.
I think in relation to your first point as well, kind of if you can go deep into one niche, you can start to understand the customer more, and then in your descriptions you're going to have like so much better like understanding of their problems, and that way your copywriting's going to be a lot better as well.
Yeah, like that's a great point. Like just putting yourself in your customer's shoes. The more you can know what your customer wants and like their pain points are, and like how you can, like what they want from your books, what to put into them. Like that's gonna make your book sell and make the quality just go way up instead of just kind of, like I said, surfing around, picking different niches, and not really knowing what the true customer is in that niche.
Yeah,
it's just gonna hurt you in the long run.
Yeah. Okay, so we just had some technical difficulties there, but let's jump back into this question. What's your opinion on mindset, and what do you think is the best mindset for success with publishing?
So pairing it with the last question that we just talked about, which was, I think I talked about just being short-sighted and not thinking long-term to publishing business. So personally for me, that's been one of the biggest things that has changed things for me. At the beginning, I was super impatient, wanted to publish a bunch of books, get them out there, and then I kind of changed things around and figured out if you have a long-term mindset and you're willing to invest your time, your money, and your effort into your foundation that you build up front, then your books are going to pay off in the long run for months and even years to come instead of just weeks to come. It's not going to die out over time. That's just one thing for my mindset. And then with that in mind, obviously putting your time, investing your money into high quality books is obviously very important. If you don't invest your money into high quality books, build that foundation, you're never gonna get any money back. But with that, you also want to make sure that you're investing your time and your effort. So for me, I just like to think of it as, will my future self be happy that I didn't do this thing that I should have done 2 days ago? Obviously not. So I like to think about it that way, and if I'm going to be happy with what I've done right now, then it's obviously the right thing to do. For example, if I need to, go do some keyword research and find some more profitable niches or something right now, and I'm not really feeling it, I don't really want to spend 2 hours looking for niches. But in the future, if my future self's going to be happy with me doing that, then it's obviously the right thing for me to do right now. Just do it and get it done. If you're thinking short-term mindset, you're probably not going to be doing that. You're probably going to put it off and then go, watch a movie or something. But that's just a waste of your time. Personally, that's just the way that I feel. So those are two of the biggest things for me that have really changed the way that I've evolved my business over time, I guess, publishing.
Yeah, and carrying on with the the point about time, how do you manage your time, and do you have any structures or strategies in your routine to make sure you're doing the most in the time you have?
Yeah, so I have a pretty strict routine with my time and the way that I go about doing things in relation to this business and publishing. Recently, over the past few months, ever since I started making this program with publishing, but on top of that, just my whole publishing business in general, the way that I've gone about my days I've set up things usually Monday to Friday. I'll go all in hardcore. I get up at around, I get up around 5:30 every day, go to the gym, come back home, and try to get down to work on my deep, important work from 7:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is very caffeinated and very very intense work. I definitely kind of rely on caffeine too much, but that's okay. It gets my work done, so for now it'll be fine. I know it's probably not a good thing to think about in the future, but anyways.
Will your adrenals...
So yeah, 7...
Are your adrenals going to be happy with you in 10 years? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, 7 to 12 is deep work. I don't want to get distracted. I got my notifications turned off. My phone is in that dresser right there. It is actually in there right now. It's turned off. I don't even use that thing. I make sure that I delete all my apps on there, like Instagram, Snapchat. I don't even have those things on there, even though it's turned off in the drawer. But it just makes it less tempting for me to go over there and grab it, I guess, because that thing is not good. So I'm just on my laptop, notifications off, and I always plan a to-do list. I use this application called Google Keep. It allows me to sync my to-do list with my phone and my laptop, so I can, if I'm like after 12 o'clock and I'm on my phone and I think of something I got to do later on in the day, I'll just put it in Google Keep, and then it'll show up on my laptop later on in the day, so I can just check that out. So that's actually a really good app if you guys want to download that. That's something that's helped a lot. And my other thing that contributes to it is I have a whole Google Doc that I list throughout the day, every single thing that I've done. I just log every single thing that I get done for two reasons: so I don't forget that I've done it, and just so I have a mental picture of what I accomplished during that day. So it just makes me realize what I've done instead of just like sitting around and doing absolutely nothing. So that's how I organize my time. That's how I basically work on my publishing business. That's how I've done it for the past few months, and it's been pretty good.
I think another good thing about like writing down everything you've done is like when you're either, a few months down the line, you're either successful or you have a failure. Like you can go back and look exactly what caused it, because you know like exactly what you've done on each day, right?
Yeah, like every single step is being accounted for. So like if you go back and look, like you can see what you did wrong. Perhaps what you're doing right during that time. If you've gotten yourself into a rut, you can go back and see, like on that certain month or something like that, you can see what you were doing during that time that you were doing well, and kind of revert back to that and just kind of have a mental reset based off of what you were doing before. That's just, I like recording things. I've always been like that. I like being organized. So just having that log, I just use a Google Doc, by the way. It helps a lot.
Yeah, I use kind of this, I think it's called the yearly planner. It was like a Sam Evans thing. And it's like a Google Sheets, and each day you write 5 things and then you cross them off.
Oh, is that the war?
Yeah, the war map, yeah.
War map, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if I'd come up with that name, so that's why I didn't say it, or whether that's what it was actually called.
Yes, I think it's the war map.
That's it.
He's got it organized by like, you can click in and like go to the day and everything. It's like a Google Sheet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Google Sheet, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool for sure. I think that's from his consulting accelerator course, whatever. That's a good resource for sure.
Yeah, I think he gave it away for free. That's how I got it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Cool. I think he actually did in a video he talked about it.
Yeah.
War map and a bunch of different things.
Yeah. So like I say, I went back to March and kind of looked at exactly what I did to launch my first high content book successfully. Because number 2 and 3, they really weren't very good and didn't make any royalty. So I was just recently going back and seeing why was this one doing so much better. I think it's really useful.
Definitely, yeah. It's really good just to like recollect your steps and go back and see what you were doing right during that time, and then apply that to now. It's really good for that.
So moving on to the next question now. Another thing I've kind of noticed that you do amazingly well is you seem to just outsource everything. So you can kind of get, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks worth of work that somebody else might do in like 2 days.
Yeah. That's been one of my main things that a lot of people ask me, like, why do you do that? And what you just said is exactly why I do it. And there's more reasons why I do it, but that's one of the main things. Like, for example, I have my Amazon ads. I don't do those myself. Someone does that for me. I've hired someone to work on that for me. And usually when I choose to outsource something, I base it off of a couple things. Like, do I like doing this thing? And for me, ads just aren't my thing. I don't like doing all the little numbers and all the stats and stuff. It's just not my thing. So that checked the box for ads for me. Also, another thing I look at is just how much time it takes out of my day. And running ads on Amazon, if anyone's familiar with it, it can be very time consuming, especially if you have like 30 books. You got to check all the keywords and everything that you're targeting. And but this is just one example. Like, there's so many other things that take a lot of time. But with Amazon ads, that's just my biggest thing. I've completely outsourced that to someone. Obviously, I still look at them. I check in on him, and he just runs them for me. And that saves me like at least an hour or 2 hours every single day. And those 1 or 2 hours are just more time for me to put into things that I like doing in the business. So yeah, I don't love doing ads. I don't love like anything that I don't like doing that much, and it's causing me a lot of time and effort. I'll usually just outsource that. And I guess that pairs with hiring a ghostwriter, but that's kind of like everyone does that. So that's why the Amazon ads thing is a decent example.
Yeah. Are there any?
I like outsourcing things for sure.
Yeah, I did. I definitely need to improve on that. Like, I've got a VA. I'm gonna hire a second one soon, but I need to do it more. So, what are some of the other things that you outsource, like apart from ads, if there is others?
Um, so the ads is probably the biggest one. Like you said, VA, like just having someone to do a lot of the based off of a book that I read called Deep Work by Cal Newport. I'm sure you've read it, or anyone's read it. It's a very popular book. Talks about deep work, which is basically focused work, and then there's shallow work that you don't really like. It's how much of that shallow work is actually contributing to your success. So the shallow work for things like ordering covers, to do with publishing, I guess. Ordering covers, doing like making book descriptions,
Editing the books and formatting, I guess, there's that as well.
editing, formatting, all that stuff, all those little things. It's just like I can do those myself, but if I outsource those to a VA, it just saves me, like I said, so much time. And it for me, I think it just makes me way more money because I can put that time into doing important things like figuring out what keywords are going to work for me, and just like hiring good writers and just putting the time into those things instead of focusing on those little things that just they matter. Don't get me wrong, but I can definitely outsource those kind of things to get someone to do it. I'll teach them my way of doing it properly, and once I've taught them that, then they can just go ahead and do it for me. So anything that I don't like doing, I'll outsource it. And like you said, that allows me to really up my work that I get done. Like you said, getting close to 2 weeks worth of work done in like 2 days.
Yeah, dude. I think when we've spoken, like anytime I say, "Oh, have you done this and this?" You're like, "Oh yeah, I outsourced it." Like you just seem to do everything outsourced.
Yeah, it's kind of a bad habit at this point. I gotta stop doing it, but I feel like it helps me. So I don't know.
No,
Sometimes
it's
it's just me strictly being lazy. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not like super. I don't have this down to a science or anything, but for the most part, every single time that I've outsourced something, it's for a reason, and it helps me just build my business and focus on the things that matter most to me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So let's go to the next question now. How has Corona impacted your business, if at all?
Yeah, it impacted it very positively, personally.
Nice.
I know some people didn't have it totally depends on what niches your books were in. For me, personally, a lot of my books did super well during coronavirus. Well, I mean, it's still a thing, but like in the spike of it, like I was talking about before, when I mentioned April being really good, like that's when I really saw the pandemic and everything. I don't want to say helps. I feel kind of weird saying it helped my business, but I mean it did. It did. Like it contributed to a lot of my book sales because people were stuck at home, didn't know what to do. They just wanted to buy books, so it affected me very positively, and it brought in a lot more customers than I actually thought it would. So I mean, lots of people look at it as a negative thing. Obviously, it's a very negative thing, but business-wise, for publishing, it was pretty good for me.
And you also have the extra 5% from ACX, right?
Yeah. I think that made me like I don't even know. It made me a lot more on my royalties for April as well. My ACX royalties for April were like $9,000, and without it, I guess I don't know. I'm not going to do the math on screen here because I look like an idiot. But 5%, less 5% is what it would have been. But with the 5%, it was $9,000.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's say that everything came crashing down tomorrow and you were starting the game from $0. Like with the knowledge you have now, what would you do to go from 0 to like 10K a month within 6 to 18 months?
Yeah. So I'm going to relate it back to what I said before, kind of with the not jumping from niche to niche. I wouldn't do that again if I started out. I'd focus on like maybe 3 big niches and dive deep into those 3 niches. Figure out which one of those niches I like best, and then after a few months of having a bunch of books within those niches, I probably figure out like which of the 3 is my favorite, maybe 2 of the 3, and really start to become an expert in there. Like you said, figuring out who my customer is, why they like my books, and what their pain points are, and why I'm selling them books in the first place, and just becoming an expert on the niche. That's something I would do from the beginning. Another thing I would do is not only focus on the high content books, because at the beginning when I started, I just had a couple of high content books for about 2 or 3 months. I until December rolled around. I would just instantly focus on high content and then contributing DIY books like I've talked about into the portfolio. So having both of those contributing to each other and just really building that solid foundation right at the beginning. And if I knew about low content books at the beginning, I would start with those as well, like throw those in. Because obviously, if you have like those three models of books, you're giving yourself like the odds are better because you have three different models of books that you're going in with your portfolio rather than just one, like high content. So if I have high content, DIY, which is in between the two, and then low content contributing to my portfolio, then I'm just making such a solid foundation that it's basically giving me way better chances to succeed with the business model rather than just having one.
Yeah. So with those DIY books, what's kind of the minimum investment that someone would need to make to get a book that's making them, a decent income per month?
So with those guys, like, I have two different ways of making them. There's the DIY complete model, which is literally making it yourself and writing all of the stuff in the book yourself. Or you can do the DIY assisted model, which is basically when you hire someone to write you a 7K to 10K word book. For writing in those guys, like, I don't usually pay over $150. And that's for like a longer one. If you're under 10K words, like, you don't have to pay more than $100 to get a good, solid DIY book. So obviously writing's probably going to be the biggest chunk, biggest investment that you make with those guys. And then like you're going to want to outsource a cover probably. So it'll be like $10 off of Fiverr. So it'll be under like $200 plus ads, I guess, because you're going to spend money on ads. But for the book cost, under $200 for a very high quality DIY book. And one thing that I do is I order them in bulk, kind of. So I'll order from the same writer. I'll get them to write 4 of them for me. So it'll come at a discounted rate as well. So that's another way to do it. And then once you do that, you get, if one of those 4 books is similar, you can always bundle them together and get another book too. So like you can get a ton of books for like $300. You get like, I don't know, you made like, for $300, you get them to write 4 DIY books. You can make 2 bundles out of there. You get 6 books total. That's pretty good.
And it's super hard to predict kind of how much money a book will make before it's out. But like,
you cut out hardcore there.
Oh, sorry, dude. So it's kind of difficult to say how much a book will make. The same in low content, the same in high content. Like, you never really know if a book will succeed. But like, if you were to talk about averages, those 4 books, how much do you think that would kind of bring it on average?
Like the ones I was just talking about, like how much they bring in on average.
Yeah.
It's dependent, obviously, again on the niche and everything like that. For the niches that I'm in, like I've tested a lot of different niches, so I'm at the point now where I kind of know what niches work best for me personally, and it definitely varies because a lot of the DIY books are reliant on trends, like I said, holidays and stuff like that. So during certain points of the year, if you make them during, like, say I make like a Christmas related DIY book and I publish that in November, then I have enough experience from making them that I know how to make a high quality one. So I know it's going to do well once I get into the Christmas season because it's going to start selling well, obviously, because people buy more during Q4. But like, I don't know, on average for me, like one of my best books, it's done like 3,000 to 4,000 royalties in 1 month during April. Back in April, that was crazy.
That's awesome.
But that's obviously an outlier. That's a little bit more than you can expect. Like, I don't know, you can definitely make your money back within the first 2 months, I would say. Like, it's not very difficult with those guys, especially since the cost is so low compared to the high content ones. And you're probably thinking, why does he even bother with high content? But high content serves a different purpose for me, so I like to incorporate both versions into my portfolio. But you can definitely make $500 to $1,000 within the first 2 months off of those books.
Yeah, and you're putting together a free course, a comprehensive course to show people how to make these do-it-yourself or assisted do-it-yourself books, right?
Yeah. So not only that, it does focus on those guys a lot because lots of people don't know how to make those. They're totally unfamiliar since the popularized method is the long form, high content 30K words. Sure. I also talk about those in the course. I discuss all about how to make those. I give you guys like an outline and stuff, how to make them. I also go into detail about the DIY style books and how you can make those guys in like 1 or 2 weeks. They don't take very long compared to a high content book, which you're waiting for the writer to write 30,000 words for, which can take up to a month. The DIY ones take about 1 to 2 weeks to make, and you're published and you're ready to go. So you're making money with those guys right away. And obviously that's similar to how like low content works too. But with the DIY one being on 7 to 10K words, only should take the writer like a couple weeks. And I show you guys how to make them from A to Z, give you an outline, give you a job description to give to a writer so they know what to write about, and just all those kind of things, tell you how to pick the best topics. Just go really into detail how to make them from my experience and my strategies that I use.
That's amazing, man. I can't wait to see the course myself. But let's go to the next question now. So what's your goal by the end of 2020 or for this year? What are your goals?
Right now I'm focusing on a lot of DIY books, making pretty big series out of them, like 10 book series, and like just trying to see how many books I can get in there and how low I can keep the costs. Like, for example, I just had a 6-book series made for around $400. And each of those books has around 10K words. And out of those books, since there's 6 of them, I'm going to break them into 3s and make 2 bundles out of all 6 of theirs. So there'll be 8 books total. And those are going to be really focused on the summer months coming up and Q4 especially. So obviously, you're always preparing for Q4. The more you can do now, the better you're going to do during Q4. So when sales are highest. So I'm just preparing right now, making a bunch of series and building a solid foundation. So once those summer months, and well, I guess it is summer now, but I'm talking like July, August area, start to roll through, then I'll be ready to go and start making some good royalties. Because just based off of what I did in December, off of like 3 or 4 of those books, you can see if I have like 20 of them ready to go, with established foundations by the time Q4 comes around. My goals are to get up to like, so if I did 10K, then I could definitely have like a 50K month in Q4 if I really incorporate all the DIY books into my portfolio.
Yeah, that'd be incredible, man. I generally find Q4, November and December is like 3 to 4 times more royalties than you're on. So if you're already on 10 plus, then no reason you can't get 50.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's what I want to hit. I think it's definitely doable. It's just going to take some preparation, which is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
even though we're like, it's June. What is that? How many months away are we right now?
6, bro. 6.
6 months away. So it's never too early to prepare.
For sure.
That's all I'm saying.
For sure. What are the best kind of books or maybe interviews or we'll just go with books, bro. What are the best books you've read in terms of like entrepreneurship or maybe even publishing?
I actually mentioned one earlier. Probably my favorite book that I've read. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and that taught me a lot about like not even to do with the outsourcing, but like just being super laser focused on my goals and just putting in the time now so that in the future I can look back at it and just be happy with the work that I put in. Deep Work talks a lot about just how to focus and really get the deep work done instead of not wasting your time, but spending more time on shallow work, which is basically things that you could be doing, but they're not going to be as productive as your deep work. So that book's very good. I'm just looking over at my shelf to see what else I got here. Another one that I liked is, I learned a lot from the Jordan Belfort Way of the Wolf one, like incorporating those kind of tactics. It's basically just a sales book into like book descriptions. Bunch of good stuff in there. It's pretty short too. It's not that long of a book. And a really tiny book that's like one of my favorites of all time is called Managing Oneself.
Ooh.
By Peter Drucker, I think. It's like super short, but it's just all about managing yourself. I don't want to go too much into detail because I've already talked too much about the other ones, but if you look it up on Amazon, that's a good book too. It just basically talks about managing yourself, managing your time, and just being the best version of yourself.
Awesome, bro. I'll check that out. What do you think is the one thing that's contributed most to your success that we've maybe not already talked about?
I don't know if I call it success just yet, but it is pretty good numbers. I'm definitely looking to get to the success range by the time Q4 comes around. That'll be my biggest goal. But for the stuff that I've done now, I guess I've kind of talked about just the way that I manage my time and like just put all of my focus into what matters most and just getting the hard work done and just not being phased by like hurdles and things that are in my way. Instead of thinking them as like roadblocks, you got to think of them as ways to. You got to go into them as problem-solving opportunities and just solve your problems. And just because you gotta keep your end goal in mind. If you don't solve the problems and the things that are in your way now, then you're never gonna get to your goals. So just focusing on what matters now, getting it done, and then getting one step closer to your goal is just what I've been doing, and just making sure that I work every single day, getting all the important stuff done, and just being laser focused, pretty much. That's my main thing. A lot of people don't want to put in the work, and it's hard to hear, but you got to put in the work if you want to get to make money with anything like publishing.
So what do you see for the future of publishing? Like, obviously Amazon's always making changes. What do you think will be different in the future? Obviously we've just had the ACX codes change, so it's definitely changed for ACX. But what do you think maybe is going to happen in the future?
I was going to mention that. That's going to cause a lot of things. You're going to see a lot more people focusing on, instead of, like I said, shotgunning niches. It's going to be more so focused on making high quality books and putting a lot of time and effort into making sure that the book has a longer lifespan than just like a few months, and just getting good reviews, building that whole like email list and stuff like that, building a platform, building a brand out of your books rather than just like having individual pen names left and right. Just incorporating into your brand and really making the most money out of your niche and becoming an expert in that area. I think that's what is going to be. That's what you're going to see more so moving into the future, rather than just like people going from niche to niche and not really focusing on the quality and the brand building aspect of things.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be less people publishing now with that change in ACX codes? Because I've seen a lot of like kind of dodgy books on there with terrible narrators, and they're not even trying, you know.
Yeah. It definitely will contribute to people not making books anymore. Like some people are probably going to give up because they were just relying on ACX so much. But yeah, like I think, like I said, it's gonna weed out the people that don't care about the quality of their books, and it's gonna put more focus on the people who actually put effort and time into making sure their book is high quality.
And on that same point, do you think like self-publishing will become as big of a thing as like Shopify dropshipping, or you think, because it's quite under the radar, you think it will stay that way, or?
Yeah, dude, I constantly think about that. Like, as much as I want it to be known, obviously I don't want it to be known, because like less competition is better, right? But I think it's definitely growing, not at the same rate as those e-com, dropshipping, social media marketing, all those popular business models. But it's definitely not at that level. But I think it's definitely growing right now steadily, and it's working its way up. But I don't know if it'll ever be that big, which is a good thing.
I guess there's always going to be people dropping off.
Yeah, that's just how I feel. Yeah, for sure. You never really know, but that's just how I feel about it right now.
Okay, so tell us about your new course and kind of why did you want to make it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I see a lot of people only focusing on like the long form 30,000 word books, and personally for me, I saw how much the DIY style books contributed to my success. Like for example, if I never incorporated DIY books into my publishing portfolio, I guess you could call it, it would definitely be like 1/3 of the size in terms of revenue. If I only ever stuck to long form books. So just to give you an idea of what my main reason for creating the course was, is to teach people what these DIY books are all about and incorporate them into a portfolio that also involves long form books, and just basically shows any beginner who's like brand new to publishing, has no idea where to get started, because one of the main things that I see people is that they're just super overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. So, and I get a lot of people asking me, like, because I post YouTube videos and they're like, what are you doing? Can you mentor me? And like all these questions, like, and it's just hard to answer them in one sitting. So I make my course to address those questions and like guide a beginner from A to Z. How to publish their first book would just be the right call. So that's what it's focused on. So if you're a beginner, that's what it's for. That's what it's aimed towards.
And it's going to be absolutely free, right?
right from the beginning, it's 100% free. I might charge for it in a few months, but right now, the launch date, which is next Monday, June 29th, it's going to be free for anyone who wants to join. And the main reason why I did that is just because I was not only thinking it with the beginner in mind, but like I was taking my personal experience. Like it kind of sucks if you have to not only invest in your first few books, but you got to invest in a course as well. Sometimes, like, obviously, it's just a lot of money to put in up front. So for a beginner to get into something for free, it's definitely a good way to help people out in the beginning, I think. So that's why it's free right now.
Okay, man. So who do you think will benefit the most from this free course?
So I've already said a couple times, like the beginners, like that'll be if you're totally new to publishing, or you're coming off of a different way of publishing and you're not familiar with, like, for example, if you're into low content books but you want to contribute to your portfolio a little bit more in different aspects. So incorporating high content and DIY style books, like the ones that are in between, like I've been talking about, then it's definitely a good resource for you to utilize, get into the course, and you'll be able to start a solid foundation, like I've been preaching the entire time with publishing, and really start to grow your business from zero, and just learn all the ropes and how to publish your first book on KDP, pretty much. So if you're brand new, or you are only in like low content or no content, and you want to contribute to your portfolio, then it's definitely for you.
Awesome, man. I think it's going to be a game changer in the publishing world.
I hope so. We'll see. I've already had a few people go through it as beta testers, and they're super happy with the content. And a lot of them were people who are already in publishing, so they've already been publishing books, even if they're already into high content. And they said they learned a bunch of stuff from it. So super excited to share it and just to see what kind of impact it has on people.
Yeah, man. I for one can't wait to see how to make these assisted DIY books as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with them. Obviously, your portfolio is a lot of low content, so it'd be interesting to see where these fit in and like how they contribute to your monthly earnings.
The thing I'm most excited about with them is, like, with the high content 30,000 word books, they take so long to make. Like, for example, my first one, I started making that at like 29th of December, I think, and only now has it just returned the investment. So now it's in profit, but that's like 6 months later.
Yeah, that's a while. I totally see what you're saying, and that's another reason. Like, they just take so long to make. I'm not saying they're not essential, because they definitely are something you want to incorporate into your portfolio. But during that time that's being made, like, there's no better time than to start making DIY books while you're waiting for your long form ones to be made. So there's always something to do if you learn how to make the DIY ones and incorporate those into your portfolio.
All right, thank you so much, Dane. That brings us pretty much to the end. So how can people follow you on, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook? What are your things? Obviously, we can leave them in the description, but just shout them out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to shout myself out, but I guess I will. If you want to get into like the course I was talking about, I'm sure that you'll have that down below, the sign up link for that. That's obviously the biggest one. If you want to follow me on or subscribe to me on YouTube, I got a YouTube channel. It's Dane Mcbeth. I talk about publishing similar to Matt, but I also talk about like the DIY books and high content books. So if you're interested in that kind of content, I do a lot of that stuff. And if you want to follow my Instagram, that's totally cool too. It's Dane Mcbeth. They're all Dane Mcbeth, but I'm sure you'll link them down below.
Cool, man. Awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you taking the time of your day, and I'm definitely excited for people to learn more about the DIY stuff, and hopefully this brings that to their attention so they can get in there and start learning about it.
All right, thanks, man. Well, I'll speak to you again soon.
Sounds good.
They wanna count me out before I'm even up. They wanna bring